Good morning, everyone. My name is Philippe Fournant. I will be the moderator of this session. Welcome to the Smart Cities Lighthouse Clusters Group event. I would just remind the agenda we have today. We are going to start by the presentation of the conclusion of a joint paper issued by 4 projects. And then we will have a political session. And then we will have 2 keynote speeches, and we will conclude with the signature of the manifesto. The manifesto is a framework, a cooperation framework between the 18 Smart City projects. And we will have, at the end of the morning, a studio organized in Lyon about the future of the energy communities. So I will call London from Lyon and hand over the presentation of the joint paper to Jem. Jem, are you online?
Hearing from this community about our shared values, our shared goals, the shared understanding of what needs to be done to reach these goals, and the commitment to work together to get there does make me optimistic for what can be achieved next. Just to note, I'm not using slides for this presentation, so please don't worry that you can only see me. I've been asked by the SCCO1 Board of Coordinators to introduce a joint paper and the next session on behalf of the 4 projects that began their journey in 2016. I'm the Programme Manager and the Partnership Lead for one of those projects, and it certainly has been quite a journey. My project, Sharing Cities, together with Smarter Together, Replicate and Smarten City, brings together an impressive pool of 24 European cities that are engaged in testing and deploying smart technology and developing the business modelling and innovative financing routes necessary to enable scale. All projects are a partnership of about 30 partners from public or private sectors or from academia. The biggest difference between these 4 projects is how they're administered. Sharing Cities and Replicate are led by city authorities, Smarten City is led by a private company, and Smarter Together is led by a city-owned development agency there in Lyon. Despite these differences, all of these projects are focused on a shared challenge. So the paper is called The Path from Pilot to Scale, collaborating with European smart cities to accelerate the smart cities market. And it brings together the rich learning from these 4 projects. It brings together case studies, not just on what was achieved, but how it was achieved. And most importantly, a set of recommendations for what needs to happen next in order to build on the success of the projects, particularly as we move into Horizon Europe. Setting the context for the reflections in this paper is a quote from economist John Maynard Keynes, who says the difficulty lies not so much in developing new ideas as escaping from old ones. And I really like this because, as we all know, the future does not lie in business as usual. We have very significant challenges ahead around climate change and economically, and now with the added impetus of the global COVID crisis. But these projects and the other Smart Cities and Communities, or SCCO1 projects, have proven that escaping from old ideas is possible, and they've proven the scale of what is possible when you do. These projects also demonstrate, though, how addressing the challenges presented by COVID-19 and the climate crisis requires a of mindset. There's a need to realise smart, green and resilient investments on a much larger scale than on what we're currently delivering. To that end, this paper represents a call to arms and a path for what should happen next. So the first piece of advice from the joint paper is to be pragmatic and be bold. Pragmatically, we have to ensure learning is not only passed on, but built on. We can only move from pilot to scale if we draw on established knowledge and expertise gained through work such as this in our cities. In terms of being bold, cities must move faster if we're to meet the challenge. That much is clear. We must also change our ways of working. Dealing with the complexities of change in cities requires agility, as we all know, the right tools, working across disciplines and genuine community-led innovation. In London, We need to achieve the reduction in carbon brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic every year if we're to achieve our climate goals. As the joint paper points out, the power of necessity has the potential to bring out new ways of working and to help accelerate a systematic transition for cities to more sustainable models. And I believe that Graham was quoting Winston Churchill yesterday when he said, "Never waste a good crisis." What could happen if we successfully harness the mindset that delivered us COVID-19 vaccines in less than a year and applied this to the challenge of achieving carbon neutrality? Next is the need to bridge the gap between innovation and scaling and the market. Cities hear the message from the investor community that projects are often too slow moving, too small, or not packaged well enough. We must explore new paths to financing through leveraging assets or bundling or layering projects together to increase the commercial viability and to reduce risk. Also important is clear communication between cities and investors with an understanding of each other's priorities, challenges, and expectations. Related to that is the recommendation that completion of projects be accelerated. And one of the ways to achieve this most effectively is through the creation of in-house companies or purpose-driven vehicles. These mechanisms help provide much needed pace to projects. They also allow more agility, they enable recruitment of the right capabilities, and these bodies can work more effectively with private partners or investors. The joint paper also advises simplify everything. Products and services should be easy to use and easy to sell. That's the mantra of a designer. Cities may benefit from considering a similar approach in elements of their work. We must deploy new urban data platforms that are focused on open source and a component-based approach with ways to use and share data with citizens. And the final piece of advice from the 4 projects in this paper, when considering what next, when it comes to scaling up smart solutions across Europe and internationally, is to focus not always on energy transition, but on well-being and resilience. In terms of messaging to citizens and politicians, the narrative around energy transition is not always an accessible or appealing one. Considering and articulating the challenge from the perspective of citizen well-being often has greater resonance with decision makers. So we're about to hear from a distinguished and experienced panel who will further discuss precisely this question of what comes next. Whilst the results achieved by the 18 SCCO1 projects and their 128 cities are significant and should be celebrated, obviously we must be more than the sum of our parts, particularly if we're to achieve the audacious goal of 100 climate neutral cities across Europe by 2030. As we heard several times in yesterday's sessions, we cannot and must not constantly reinvent the wheel if we're to achieve carbon neutrality. If we're to create engaged and inclusive societies with good quality of life and prosperous economies that have sustainability at the heart of what they do. Climate neutral cities will never become a reality if we don't build on the invaluable amount of knowledge and innovation that's already established. So what is the future of cities? We're seeing the impacts of our greatest challenges already, and we have developed many of the solutions. We just require the long-term vision and the right application that is bold and that is citizen-driven. The panel in our next session includes mayors, vice mayors and city councillors from cities with direct experience of this approach, and the Deputy Director General of the European Commission and Cities Mission Manager, Matthew Baldwin, who has a key perspective in considering how to secure the huge investment needed, how to accelerate the process given the urgency of the problem, and in how we engage citizens authentically. So to conclude, the joint paper is available right now on the B2 Match platform. If you go to the homepage of the conference page and click on the Welcome tab, on the right-hand side, there's a section called Resources, and there it's called Joint Paper of the SCCO1 Second Generation. Of course, if you're struggling to find it and desperate to read it, then do get in touch with the conference organisers, who I'm sure will be very happy to share it with you. So thank you very much for listening. I wish you a good day, and I hand back to you, Philippe.
So thank you very much. You were short, concise, and go straight to the point. So it was really great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.